Alright guys, so I'm on my way to get my phone battery replaced. It says 13 minutes. Let me actually look at the map because I don't know where I'm actually going. They said about a 10-minute wait. It's about a 13-minute drive, $80 flat, so I gotta stop and get cash. But yeah, so I wanted to talk about a little bit of the topics that we had started touching on while I was talking about the LA Pride Festival. So, I guess the first one that came up was that topic of dating. Now, I grew up in LA, so I have a long-term social life that has been in LA. Like I mentioned, most of my life in the beginning was church socialization. After that point, pretty much once I maybe within like 1 or 2 years before I started grad school, I started interacting with a different church. It was very, very small though. So I guess because the focus for me was more on learning, I didn't really take it so much to heart, I guess. Like when I saw that these people had, there were maybe similar issues, but there were less people and I was new. People didn't involve me. People would like run things by. Like I think the only issue that came up that I really remember is one person, the guy in charge mostly. There was one person in the congregation that I guess helped out with the money, because people tithe and give offerings and things. And when I guess somebody had made a comment about tithing, saying, like, oh, how did that person only give that much money kind of thing. And I'm just saying what the other person told me. They were like, oh, that person in the congregation made a comment like that, and so he told the guy in charge, is like, I felt like that was inappropriate and judgmental, and I don't want someone like that having access to knowing like who's giving money if they're going to comment like, why is this person giving so little. So for that reason, I guess he got mad about it, and I think he did it as a protective thing. It felt like he felt like protective of whoever that was about. And I was thinking, well, it could have been about me. Like maybe I wasn't giving a lot of money or something. I remember at that time I had started working at Old Navy for like just barely one paycheck's amount of shifts. It was a night shift at the mall. And I guess I didn't do too good at that job. But I started working at the library. What am I saying? At Old Navy at the mall. And then so I remember I was getting money at one point and then I wasn't, so I didn't tithe at the beginning, and then maybe I did a little but not too much, but I don't know if they were talking about me or talking about someone else. I have no idea, but either way, he was upset about that, and that kind of blew out of proportion to where those people left the congregation because they felt really upset at how the guy in charge handled things, and they were like, oh, like they didn't really like being told that they couldn't have the position, so they quit coming and stopped interacting. And that's the drama that I heard about, but I was only involved because the guy in charge would talk to me about things sometimes. Like he was pretty social and transparent about stuff, but he kind of mentioned that, and I was kind of like, okay, like what, like at least now I have no question about like why are those people not at the services or whatever, because it was such a small congregation, so people were pretty involved. But yeah, it was a good it was a good, it was a fun time, I guess. But there was a little bit of drama. But I feel like anytime you have people together, there's going to be some drama. Like, I don't think, even if it's not even religious, even if it's like a class on like how to like choreograph like dance moves or whatever, there's probably going to be drama in a class like that. So it's like, I don't think there's any way to fully get away from people having misunderstandings and stuff. Like, it doesn't have to be like a blowout or some big dramatic like gossipy thing, but I mean it can be just like, yeah, it can happen. So yeah, I wasn't concerned. And then after, like, yeah, I was applying for grad schools during the time when I was at that church, and then I met a bunch of cool people in grad school. And so and before grad, in my undergrad, and I still lived kind of like with family, so the people I grew up with and everything, so it was a pretty good combination of ways to meet varieties of people between going to church, and which I kind of started going to this other church when I moved to San Diego. Well, I got into grad school in LA, went to that school for like 3 years, and then there was maybe a year or part of a year between, because you can't just like apply and start. Like, there's like an application process time and study for the GRE time and all this other stuff. And then after I got my master's in LA, I went to a school in San Diego and met a bunch of cool people through my experiences in San Diego. Not all of them were through school. A lot of them were through school. A lot of them were through work, of how I met some really cool people that are kind of, I'd say for the most part, my primary friendships that come out of San Diego. And that is kind of the scope. I gotta go get cash because I don't want to pay the extra fee. And then, alright, let me go get cash real quick. Dude, I wish this podcast could just like pause. You can't pause, you have to stop and have all these segments. Alright, we're recording. My goodness. It's a journey, guys. It's a journey over here. Got my cash. Headed over to the phone repair spot. So yeah, back in grad school days, what's that song? I think it's called Semi-Charmed. Like, something, I can't remember who made that song, but they say like semi-charmed kind of life. In my head, I've got this like version that's like semi-queer kind of life. That's kind of how I would describe my grad school dating experiences. And I always kind of used to gravitate towards I don't know, like different kinds of people. Like, I've definitely always had like this attraction towards androgyny, but and I figured that out with Peter Pan in like the 3rd grade. But outside of that, I don't meet that many people that I'm like, oh, like at first sight, I'm like, I find that they're like attractive. Not that there aren't a lot of attractive people, and also, like I mentioned before, I don't get out as much as I used to, so I'm sure that there are plenty. LA has a lot of very attractive people, and it's a little hard to not be pressured to try to up your game with little things. I'm not saying like you have to get like surgeries and stuff, but I mean, it is one of the capitals of the world for people getting plastic surgery and things. There's definitely a lot of pressure to look nice, even at like a casual bar night, club night, going to the coffee shop, trying to Go anywhere where you might meet people. Like, and then there's also the other side of people who wear, what do you call that? That people wear? People wear, like PJs to the store or to class and stuff like that. Like, there's also that. So I don't really know, fully. Like, I don't think everybody, like, cares for appearance all the time, but there is kind of that mentality going on. But I don't know. I kind of like where things are going. As far as my dating-ish life, I thought about turning on that Her app last night, and I was like, dude, I should just, but I was like, I gotta conserve my battery, but I was like, this would be maybe a nice time to maybe do some swiping while I'm up here in Hollywood, but I'm not from Hollywood, but I'm like, at least it would maybe, locate people. I mean, it's LA Pride, like, that's the most, like, all the queers are in, like, one spot for the most part. Like, that would have been the most ideal, but then, like, that thought came and went, and then I kind of never got back around to doing it. But I was like, this would be maybe prime swiping. But also, so when I've talked about dating with people, we've kind of talked about, not dating them, but talked about dating with people these days. It's been more of a conversation around, like, when you've been not dating for a while or not living with anyone, or living with family or whatever, you kind of want your independence, and it's kind of hard to think about, I want to, like, develop this life with someone. And then, unless you're kind of, like, trying to develop that life with someone, like, you're trying to develop the life with someone, but you're not, like, fully, it's not fully what you're aiming at, sometimes. Like, sometimes you're trying to develop a life with someone, but like, if you start doing that younger, it might be a little bit easier. This is part of a conversation I've had with someone recently. And then another part of a conversation I've had with someone recently is that, it's I don't know, getting into dating, trying to meet people. Last night, with the amount of people that I kind of met or interacted with that were complete strangers, I felt like I felt like I learned a lot. I spoke, I'm not trying to date this person, but, like, I spoke with someone and their cousin. I'm not sure how their cousin identified, but I would guess possibly trans female. I didn't ask. I mean, I just met them. But, they were kind enough to talk and introduce. And, I learned a lot without even having to really ask a lot of questions. It was like just meeting people out in the wild. I could hit this person up. I have their contact. They did me a solid. I shot them a Venmo. I mean, it would be weird to reach out to someone on Venmo, but it's like, we were talking for quite a while, there. We connected. We had fun interactions. Probably it's fun stories, even though if we never meet again. I know that they live in Ventura County, so they don't live near. They also don't want to dish out $300 for a motel. They also seem to go to motels because they know that Motel 6s aren't usually like that one in WeHo that's indoors. Usually they're kind of like outdoor motels, and that's true. And so they knew that. So it sounds like they get out some, but they're also conscious about how much they spend. And they paid for a lot of drinks and got in a lot of drinks, but they didn't seem belligerent when we were talking. They seemed to hold their liquor quite fine. And, you know, they seemed generous, kind. They helped me out with something. And, you know, I know that this person, the person who was talking the most, was kind of at the Pride event, kind of hoping to meet some femme ladies, and didn't really meet a lot of femme ladies. And so I know that that's kind of what they're into. And, you know, we had a good time meeting, shook hands a couple times. Like, it was all polite, and, you know, it was a nice time. So, I don't think it would have, I don't know what else to really say about it, but it was a good time. And I started thinking about it because I didn't get to do a whole lot of reflecting last night. I was just kind of trying to, like, gather myself enough to, like, you know, rest and fall asleep. And I didn't sleep. I slept like 5 hours or so, which wasn't a lot. So, I definitely want to exercise tonight and sleep early tonight, but I also don't know where I'm going. I'm looking for this cell phone repair place. They said to turn by the McDonald's, by the Starbucks. But it's not next to Starbucks. Let's see, I think it's in this plaza. Alright, and so, yeah, we were able to connect on a lot of levels. And, you know, even if we're not dating each other, it's like that could be a connection of someone who I know likes to hang out in WeHo, who wanted to talk, who we did talk. All right, phone repair, found it. They realized that was nice. They, you know, like it was a good interaction, and I would like to talk to them again, but they live so far. I am realistically not really trying to meet people who live in Ventura, even though I know nothing about it and I don't really go there. But I don't think I go much past Hollywood. Hardly ever. So I don't see myself trying to really solidly find people to date that are that far away. But hang out and meet up in Hollywood, that would be an option. But I was tired, and it was after 10, and I wasn't really trying to do all that. But that was just part of that experience. Alright, guys. Got my battery now. I'm good. I think I'm good. Let me see, how do I get out of this lot? Is there a light? Actually, I have to go around. I think I'm gonna go around here. Okay, so talking about dating, I think I don't really like to focus on, okay, let me meet people to date. I like to meet people and then see if it's like, okay, this person might be someone I might date or might want to go on some dates with or ask out on a date. I prefer to meet people and try to interact as friends first. That's kind of my thing. My preference. So in the phone shop, I met a guy, gentleman of color. Told him I went to a festival last night. He mentioned, you know, he kind of asked me which festival. I told him the Pride Festival, the LA Pride Festival, and he's kind of like, yeah, I gotta see if my brother, you know, went. And like, I was telling him it's kind of pricey for people living out here, especially compared to how it used to be. But it's a cool phone repair shop. Like, it's nice that they kind of socialize with their customers. That's kind of a sweet experience. But yeah, the guy was saying that his phone was the same. He lives over in Inglewood. He had this phone that I have, the iPhone 10. He says the same complaints about the battery when he had it. So, okay, I'm at 50% now, so I'll see kind of what it changes to. But yeah, I like meeting people, and it's situations. The reason why I'm talking about this is because, like, those would be ideally the kind of places where I'd probably not try to date somebody, but like, okay, we're talking, we're vibing. I mean, if this was a person that I wanted to be in touch with, because they seemed interested in the Pride Festival, because they live locally, they're kind of a foodie. We talked about food, we talked about racial, ethnic, cultural experiences and around this certain area of LA, and I kind of talked to him about how things changed. It was kind of like, okay, if I felt like I was into this person, and I'm not saying that there's anything negative about it. I appreciated that conversation, and I liked being there, and I liked talking to him. But if I was interested, potentially, what I might have done would be, because they asked me about the festival, and they seemed to have some form of an interest about it. Because I took a bunch of footage, I would have probably asked, like, hey, do you want me to send you a video clip of, the festival? If you want, I'm going to be posting on my Google Drive, and I can send you a link. If, just tell me your contact info to send it to. And that is probably how I would have gone about trying to get in touch with this person, or casually have a contact for this person. Now, the next phase after that is, that's the harder part, but it's like, if you have a contact, you can technically still reach back out. But I would say, for me, it might be, okay, if they said they were interested, if I was interested in this person who I was just initially speaking with, if I had found an interest in wanting to be in touch with them, or try to at least have one more conversation of some form, some kind, and get to a point where maybe we're talking on social or whatever, I might have said something like, I'm going to post, if you want to check out, my post, I'll post here. And then maybe I would have linked them to like an Instagram or something. I probably wouldn't really be like, oh, here's my Instagram. But I mean, potentially I could have been like, okay, here's my Instagram. I would say, okay, these would be my steps. If I'm thinking, if this was somebody that I liked, or that I was like, okay, I wanted to get to know more after that first interaction, because we were in there talking for like a good 40 minutes or so, 40 minutes or so. Nice lengthy conversation. He's not in a rush, I'm not in a rush. It's Sunday afternoon. I'm about to get home for some bison steaks. Me and this person could have had a nice conversation talking about these topics. And, we could have had a nice conversation. I would say if I sent them, if they said, okay, here's my email, you can send me the link, or whatever, that would have been my way of trying to get the contact and be like, oh, I'm interested in at least having one more connection to send you the link of what I posted of my experience at the festival. If they responded to that, other than just a thumbs up or a thanks or whatever, if there was a response to it, like, oh, that was nice or whatever, I could potentially work with that and try to send one more short message that is kind of like a social media, I don't know how to explain it because I'm like old school here, but it's like we already met in person. We already had a conversation. I already know what kind of places this person is trying to go to, what types of food they like, what they are interested in, what, I talked to them about the 66 market. I was like, have you been to the 66? We talked about H Mart, we talked about Soju, we talked about all kinds of places in downtown and Koreatown and Little Tokyo, like Asian foods and the Asian food out near where I live, and some little restaurants around locally, some Mexican food. I have a feeling this person is like an Afro-Latino type person because they are aware of the blackness. We kind of connected on the blackness, but then also they kind of made some comments about, authentic food from their heritage being like Latin food. And so I kind of, you kind of deduct things without having to ask. But it's kind of like this person was sharing enough about like what they like, what they're into, pretty open-minded seeming about the Pride Festival stuff, so it's like, I'm like, you don't want to harass people at work, but it's like, that would have been my method if I was interested, and that would have been my method of meeting someone in the wild if I was interested, to talk to them more. Nowadays, that's kind of more my thing. It's like, okay, if I get into a situation where I'm having a conversation with someone, where can you think on your toes to connect? I'm like, oh, I forgot the name of that thing. Like, are you on Instagram or like whatever? It can get hard to get to a point where you're asking for someone's Instagram, but I don't really know. If it's not like a meetup group or something, I don't really know how people are supposed to really meet. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, well, this isn't a meetup group. Like, how do we meet? I would just say that, it's nice to kind of meet up with someone, see someone who recognizes you, I guess what I would say, okay, what did I like about this person? I don't know. I can't say that there was something that was like not appealing. It was like a turn off. I could see that they're maybe super social. They're extra social enough that they sat and had a conversation with me, a complete stranger. They're social, they're kind, they're understanding, they kind of listen, they ask good questions, not too intrusive, but enough that they kind of learn about you a little bit, like enough. They meet you and learn like enough. Like, I feel like this person socially was really cool. And I really enjoyed the experience. I didn't think I was going to enjoy that experience. But what did I like? I liked the questions they asked. They asked personal questions, but not questions that were like intrusive. And they learned a lot without being intrusive. Now, this is maybe a clue for people who are maybe allies or non-queer people, like how one good method to interact with queer people without being intrusive about their queerness, especially when someone walks in looking like me, you don't know my pronouns, you don't know anything about me, asking the name, He asked what my name was. He, I guess I'm the one who revealed the information about that I went to a music festival last night. I didn't say what it was. I just said I went to a festival last night. And he's the one who asked, oh, which one? And I was like, oh, I went to the Pride Festival. And then he his response after that was, oh, I need to check if my brother went. I think he would have gone. And so I'm like, in my head, I'm like, okay, he's comfortable enough with people, or at least he knows people that would have gone. He started addressing me as my dude, which I'm like, cool, okay, I'll take it. Like, that's a nice thing. Asked my name again at the end. We shook hands. Just kind interaction, It's like, and maybe it's just because I don't interact with a lot of new people that I'm like, oh, I'm like shocked that this person was nice and that person was nice. But it's like, just talking to people. I like talking to strangers sometimes when it's like that. When it's like, there's no commitment. I just got to pay you cash, He did kind of take a while at the beginning, but it's kind of like, he was kind of talking at the beginning before he took the money, before he started doing anything. I don't think I got a receipt. It was just cash up front, maybe off the books, but cool spot. They seemed cool. It was cool. I didn't have any real hang-ups about anything that I saw or heard or experienced. I enjoyed that experience thoroughly. It might have been nice to try to. It might have been nice if I felt more interested. What would have made me feel more interested? I didn't get I don't know. I just feel like maybe they didn't fully understand my idea of the area where I live in LA. The way I kind of talked about it, I feel like they're not very familiar with this area. Like, we both recognize the same thing, that we're minorities in this area, and that we have experiences where sometimes we walk in the place, we're the only ones, and you kind of feel it. So we were able to kind of relate on those kind of personal experiences, just being around in this city. But I could see why, he probably doesn't hang out here much for obvious reasons. Like, a lot of people who look like me aren't comfortable hanging out in this area too much, and that's fine. But that to me maybe was the only thing where I'm kind of like, culturally, and I can't say this 100% because I don't know. I only know from this conversation, but I was starting to think, oh, culturally, we might not fully understand where each other is coming from because we were raised in different areas, but we're both familiar with different parts of LA, but he's familiar with other things. I'm familiar with other things. But I mean, it could have been worth getting to know this person more, I think. I just wasn't, I don't know, like, I wasn't really, like, there wasn't much about that interaction that motivated me to kind of want to connect. Like, I didn't feel, I don't know. I wouldn't say you need to feel chemistry that early on talking to people, but I kind of got a young person vibe, which is fine. I'm not, like, ageist. I don't know this person's age. They seemed 24, maybe 23, early 20s, working hard, working on a Sunday, working on the weekend. Lives in another area of the city, lives in LA. But I don't know what would have prompted me to get their number. If they would have asked, I definitely would have given out my contact if they would have pushed in any way to be like, what's my contact kind of thing, if they would have pushed in any way, I would have said yes. I would have, okay, I'll put it this way. I wouldn't have wanted to maybe go on a date with this person, but I would have probably wanted to interact more, go grab some soju, hang out locally and stuff. I would entertain the idea of getting to know this person. And, you know, Inglewood is not that far from where I live, so that is appealing. Unlike the people that I talked about that I met that were from like Ventura last night, it's like, okay, like this person lives within like a 25 or so minute drive and works in my city like 15 minutes away. So that to me was like, okay, like we're kind of maybe from different sides of the tracks, but at the same time still in the same area generally of LA. But I'm not like ageist or anything. I don't know. I feel like maybe they might not have liked it. I'm definitely older than they are. I'm not sure what they think about my presentation as far as gender-wise looks, the way I kind of look, the way I kind of am. I'm not sure if they fully are into me. I didn't really get a vibe that this person was fully into me, but they wanted to talk. And I like people who want to talk. But also, I could tell that there were some things that I was saying that they were kind of like disagreeing on. And that's not bad. I don't mind when people disagree, but I'm just kind of like, okay, we don't really mesh on this, we don't really mesh on that. But I felt like he kind of asked good questions. He kind of heard what I was saying. So that's kind of all I have to say about dating right now. Like, I'm not dating this person. I'm not dating the people I met last night. But that's kind of how I look at things. If I'm meeting people in the wild, I'm just talking about it because maybe it helps somebody. Because I know people always say that, you know, well, how do you meet people? That's kind of how I meet people. I mean, it's a little hard to go out of your comfort zone to talk to some random strangers, but also some of these places, like if it's a phone repair or whatever, it's like I don't have to go back or anything. We're probably not going to cross tracks either. So that's all I've got to say for now. Pretty much. Let's see. All right, phone decreased 2% while my screen has been on this whole time. All right, I hope the bison steaks are ready. I think I gotta have a Sunday lunch with my parents. That's it for now, guys. Thanks for listening.